All right, everybody, welcome to another episode. Today, the OnePlus 9 was just announced, and it gives me a lot of thoughts thinking about the future of Google Pixels and the Surface Duo 2. Thanks for coming in, checking out the channel. Give it a thumbs up. That's what supports the channels. And today I want to talk a little bit about how I think that the OnePlus 9 is something that Google and Microsoft can look at, or the OnePlus line in general, for the future of their devices. All right. So as most people know, if they've been following my channel, or those that actually know me on a personal level, know that I'm a huge fan of the Google Pixels, and I'm a pretty big fan of the Surface Duo, even though sometimes it can really annoy me. Right now, I actually have a Surface Duo and a OnePlus 7T as my two devices. I bounce back and forth between the two for a daily driver, but for the majority of this year, I've been with the Surface Duo. Now, one thing I really like about what OnePlus does is they give you a lot of value for the money, right? They give you a great screen, in-screen fingerprints reader, good amount of RAM, good processor, high-end storage, and in general, it's just a good device, right? 90 hertz display on something like this. It's going to be 120 hertz with the OnePlus 9. So when you look at devices like the Pixel 5, which is also a 90 hertz display, right? It's only about $100 cheaper brand new than the OnePlus 9, which is going to come with 8 gigs of RAM instead of 6, Snapdragon 888 versus a 730, and a 120 hertz display that ranges all the way down to 1 hertz, fully variable, and has a newer sensor than what's in the Pixel. Now, obviously, the OnePlus line and the Surface devices do not update and are not as secure as the Surface line, or the Pixel line, I should say. But they can definitely do it, right? So, for example, there's absolutely no reason that Microsoft should not be able to keep up with Google on all their updates or being pretty close, right? Google does put out their updates to the vendors and OEMs before they actually start giving it to the people. So there's no reason that Microsoft can't keep up with Google. And reality is the same thing for OnePlus, and that's actually their biggest problem. My OnePlus 7T is still on Android 10. Android 11 is about 5 months old now, maybe a little bit older if you think about when it actually launched, and even older than that if you think about when it actually was starting to be seeded out to OEMs. So there are pros and cons across the board. However, how is OnePlus giving you so much value for the money? $800 or $729, you're getting 128 gigs of storage, 8 gigs of RAM, a Snapdragon 888, a great up-to-date Sony sensor, 120 hertz display, right, and a Hasselblad lens, right? There's got to be a way that Microsoft and Google can do the exact same thing, considering they're making more money off the software than OnePlus is, right? OnePlus, yes, they are probably a little bit cheaper made on the inside, but they've definitely come a long way. I mean, this device is fantastic. It's not as, the screen's not necessarily as good as the Surface Duo, and Amanda actually has the Pixel 5, and I think it is definitely a step in the future. And it's actually interesting that the OnePlus 9 was actually announced today, because Scary of Literal Shane over there, who has become one of my favorite channels, actually did something about the Pixel. Ironically, I'm a huge Pixel fan. I actually had the Pixel 2, which was my first Pixel. I decided not to go with the 5. I went with the 7 or the 4. I went with the 7T, and then the 5 came out, and that actually relit my passion for the Pixel line, right? And that's where these companies need to go going forward. Surface Duo, Microsoft in general with the Surface Duo needs to look at, hey, look, all right, if the users are using Microsoft 365, they're using the Edge browser, they're using OneNote, all of these Microsoft pieces of software, how come you can't slightly bring the price down going forward? Now, obviously the first iteration was the bleeding edge. The device I'm recording on right now is the Surface Duo first generation. Right? It's about 5 or 6 months old right now. And yes, I guarantee you it was extremely expensive to make, especially with a full 100% DCI P3 display, even if it doesn't have HDR certification. It's also the first device with 2 full tangible screens, foldable. I have it in phone mode right now. However, there is a lot of issues that pop in on occasion. I like the device because it feels good in my hand. All right, it's pretty fast for the majority of tasks, and it has an amazing screen, and I love multitasking. However, earlier I was trying to look at a text message, and I could not swipe off of it to do dual screen in phone mode and swipe off the text message. Like, it kept getting sick. I had to close it and open it back up. There's no reason for this kind of stuff to be happening still. On top of the fact there is absolutely no reason why these companies in 2021 with the Duo 2 and the Pixel 6, they should not be able to look at what OnePlus is doing with their devices and start looking at the fact that, hey, look, I'm making money off the software. How do I make the hardware what the customers want, right? Google needs to look at that value orientation. $650, in my opinion, was a little much. They should have brought it down to $579-ish for what they gave. That's where they should sit, $550, $579. Try to create a value there. They're making a boatload of money, especially coming soon when they start making you pay for Google Photos. And Microsoft, on the other hand, as a more super premium device, need to be like, hey, look, what can I do to make my device more sturdy, better software updates, more stability, and also with the second generation, keep my device more around the $1299, $1199 price point in the same area as the Samsung S21 Ultras, right? That's where it should be priced realistically, because they still need to create desire for their device. They need to get these things into people's hands. They're going to start making money off of it. It's across the board. If you look at consoles, right? Consoles are sold either at even pricing or at a loss, getting it into the consumer's hands so they can start buying the software. They can get Game Pass. They can get all these online subscriptions and buy the exclusive games, and that's where these companies make the money. That is the same thing they need to start doing when they're looking at their phones, right? This is what people use on a daily basis, regularly. This is people's daily driver, right? It's their phone. They use their phone more than they use anything else, as long as you're not me, right? That's the main thing they use for everything. Taking pictures, getting information, social interaction, especially here in early 2021, right? Checking their email, looking at social media, checking their bills, ordering to go, checking their schedules for work if they're working a job that's not standard. All of that is through their handheld PC, or smartphone, which, in my opinion, are two separate things. The more you can multitask, the more it is a handheld PC. Look at what they're doing. UFS 3.1 storage, Snapdragon 888, 8 gigs of RAM, Hasselblad lens, Sony sensor, 120 hertz display, $729. I mean, the processor, RAM, and storage alone are definitely the most expensive parts of this device. And then you add the screen on, and they're able to sell it for $729. And they're relying on making money off of they're not making as much money off the software as Google and Microsoft are. So, Microsoft, Google, take note here. All right, we need to figure out a way that more companies can start doing the same thing that OnePlus is doing. Right? That is the future of Android as a whole, in my opinion. That is the way we can make sure that Android continues to grow in popularity. Because realistically, Android itself is too segmented. It's split. And between Google and Microsoft need to be the two companies, well, three if you count Samsung. Those three companies need to bring it together and figure out the future of it. All right, and figure out how they can have their own segments while making their amount of money. All right. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up so we can get that out there. Also, check out my Twitter page, which should be in the description below. Take care. You guys are amazing, and I'll see you next time.